guys, I've got to call it. No more Yankee, my Winky. The Donga need food. I need to go grab something to eat and watch Pretty in Pink, or I guess that wasn't that movie. That was 16 Candles. Why do I picture things and I say the wrong word?
Because some things are similar to other things.
Yeah,
because it's John Hughes films.
Yeah,
they're all the same.
They're all the same. Yeah. God bless. I love the 80s. Fucking great time.
Which reminds me, if speaking of 16 Candles, if you want some 16 Candles content,
they make a lovely light.
Did a response to a dipshit article that basically said that
oh my God,
16 Candles was rape culture.
We did a live stream on that. Yeah.
Where was this? What was this? What the
16
heck?
Candles was rape culture, they say, because of the fact that the nerd Anthony Michael Hall gets together with the prom queen at the end. But I had to point out the fact that Anthony Michael Hall's character remembered less about the evening than the prom queen did. Because if you remember, when they wake up the next day, he's the one that's asking all the questions and she's the one with the answers. Now, during the drive, she puts a pill in his mouth and he swallows it.
I thought he spit it out.
No, well, he did afterwards. So well, let's go with this. It could have been hallucinogenic that made it then after, because he spit it out. Maybe it was, maybe it was,
you sure
that's why it took so long.
I have to watch that again. I thought it was her birth control pill.
Well, that's what she said. She said it was birth control. But maybe it was something stronger.
We know if it was.
So maybe since we're playing the whole devil's advocate, it's fucking rape thing. Since he knew less about the evening than she did.
Oh, so she's actually the one.
Maybe she was the one who drugged him, because we don't know. There may have been another pill coming afterwards.
Oh,
yeah. So at the once again, I got to point out, you rape culture calling bitches, that sorry, Anthony Michael Hall knew less about the evening than the prom queen did. Sorry.
Jeez. Like, honestly, like, I believe it or not, I did not watch that. Like, someone said, I grew up in the 80s, but didn't see the John Hughes High School movie.
How is that freaking possible? I mean, if you were issued them in the 80s.
Exactly.
Well, if you were Jewish, it came with your bar mitzvah. Actually, you are a man now. Here's your John Hughes movies.
As a child of the 90s, I didn't get to them until personally till the 2000s. And interestingly, through Fall Out Boy, who actually made a song about it called "A Little Less 16 Candles, a Little More Touch Me." And because I listened to that song, I got all the John Hughes teen movies rifled at me like a shotgun. And I was like, watch them. And I went, okay. So I did.
Okay, here's a question to you youngsters who would have seen them after, because of course Geiger and I, we were there. Actually, are you a little older than I am, Geiger? How old are you?
50.
Yeah. Okay. So we're basically the same. I'm 48. You're 50. So we were there. We're about the same age. So we remember going through it. So we remember the culture. We remember society around it. So we remember which movies were better accepted than others. Which ones were if you are younger, I would love to know this. Which were the movies that resonated with you? Because it may be different than the ones that resonated with us, depending on where we were and so forth, so on. Which were the ones that resonated with you if you're 30 or younger? I would like to know if you've seen those.
I really liked The Breakfast Club. That was probably my favorite John Hughes movie.
How about you, Mike?
The ending. I've already discussed my issues with the ending.
I actually don't know. Like I said, I was kind of back and forth. Like, honestly, I would have to say The Breakfast Club only, but really, that's a tough one because I haven't seen them in a very long time. But when I remembered responding more to 16 Candles than I did to Breakfast Club. But thinking about it as an adult, I'd have to go back and watch them. But thinking back on it as an adult, I'm not entirely sure anymore.
This is kind of something where I knew what answer I was going to get. And in all honesty, the reason being is because my daughters and her and their high school friends and so forth, they watched all of them. and I hosted a lot of, I'm like my mom, where she would put on, hey, watch Friday the 13th. We did the John Hughes films, and it was Breakfast Club. And I think that's because that's like high school, no matter what, that was the same, but like
it's one of those timeless things where it's going to be the same until the day the kingdom comes, basically.
And beyond the dress, beyond the way they were dressing, it's more universal themes. Otherwise, like even the dating culture is a lot different back then. No one, like Ferris Bueller, is nothing but fantasy. There's nothing realistic in that movie. But the other
Not
films,
that it was ever meant to be anything else.
well, yeah, but it's absolutely teenage fantasy where you can go out and you can get away with all this kind of stuff.
I would say Some Kind of Wonderful would fit into that Breakfast Club era too.
Yeah, that actually Some Kind of Wonderful was made, I think, to cover up the sin of what's her name going with Blaine rather than Ducky.
I was so much more of a Some Kind of Wonderful just because I was that artist.
I forgot that he actually, I forgot this completely. I forgot that he actually he directed Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and that was that's a funny movie.
Planes, Trains, we had
that's a funny movie.
On Sunday nights, Dalton, myself, my friend Rob, and anybody who really wants to get together and do that, we talk about movies, and we did an 80s movies, and I asked, what is the definitive 80s movie? Like, you could point to it and go, this makes me feel like it's the 1980s and such like that. My pick was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles as the perfect 80s film. And
Mine was They Live.
Yeah, his was They Live. I absolutely think that is the perfect 80s movie. It's got the drama, it's got the comedy, and they were willing to sacrifice a PG rating for one scene. There's no swearing, no cussing, not real swearing, no cussing, except for the scene where he goes rents the car and is like, I want a fucking car right now, and it's over and over and over again. Amazing.
I would have picked either Buckaroo Banzai or Big Trouble in Little China.
Now, this is the definitive 80s film, not like the best film of the 80s, but this defines the 80s.
I think Buckaroo Banzai defines the 80s very well for a movie.
Okay.
This might seem like an unusual choice because it comes from the late 80s. For me, like, when I think of the 80s, I always think of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Of all the ones, of all the vacation films, it's Christmas Vacation. Like, to me, like, I think some of the antics, like, of trying to, as I've growing up in the 90s, like this, like when I was a kid, similar things would happen, but they didn't seem as, like, they seemed a bit more plastic, like where like the 80s, it felt like more, like, honestly, like it felt.
And that's
like,
so funny because that's done in '89.
I know. That's why I said it was the late 80s. That's why I made the reference. I was like, that's like, but for some reason, I think it's because it was the end of the decade. It could literally absorb all the tropes that happened in the decade and condensed it into like some morass. I don't know why. Just for me,
concentrated bullet of 80s.
Yeah, it's a concentrated bullet. Yeah, but bullet. Then you add Christmas on top of that, and you're like, yeah, it's a concentrated bullet of the 1980s.
James Hayes is saying he's surprised no one picked Top Gun. You know what? I saw that when it was released to theaters in 3D a couple of years ago.
Oh,
I did a radio station called Best Damn Movie a radio show, called Best Damn Movie Show, and that was my my required viewing. You know, it's like, okay, there's 4 movies coming out. Which one do you want to get? That kind of thing. So I took Top Gun because I was the one that was old enough to see it originally, and I could make a comparison. And I watched it and went, wow, holy Toledo!
All the male.
This movie sucks.
Okay.
I don't remember this movie sucking this bad when I was 15. What the fuck happened?
I think everyone just remembers Danger Zone. That's it.
I have to say that whole film, all the other pilots had all their shirts off except for Goose. He's the only one who kept his shirt on pretty much that entire film. I think there was like one scene where, like in the shower, where he had his shirt off, but even during the volleyball scene, he had his shirt on. Everybody else had their shirts off. I was like,
yeah, it really was. Yeah, and everybody was oiled up.
Yeah,
I think it would have been funny if you actually saw his nipples through the shirt because he had oiled but then put it back on. Yeah, because You could tell everybody just like, okay, it's time to play volleyball. Oil.
Another 80s film that I completely forgot. And I can't believe I forgot because I used to love the spinoff in the 90s was Highlander.
Mm-hmm.
The original Highlander, not the original.
Highlander. Yeah, Highlander is a good movie, and I highly recommend if you can get the DVD, get the extended version because the extra footage just makes things better.
Yes.
And it's not so much extra footage that it makes it a 3-hour epic thing, but it does add to the story and the characters. It's done.
And a great band did all the music. I mean,
Queen.
Yep.
Actually, their album.
Highlander 2, the better.
Yes, less said about that. But the true story is that the album A Different Kind of Magic has 9 of the 13 songs used in the movie. And so it's considered the unofficial Highlander soundtrack.
Yep.
Yes, I have all of Queen's albums. They are amazing. And I have to say, I do agree with Jacqueline. Iron Eagle does kick Top Gun's ass.
Yeah.
Iron Eagle is one of the hidden gems of the 80s, in all honesty. So yeah, I would
puts on One Vision.
Yeah, that is a badass song by Queen.
Yep.
And that is also on the Kind of Magic album, which is the unofficial soundtrack.
Which actually, but to me, the highlight of a lot of people say Who Wants to Live Forever. Mine was Princes of the Universe. As soon as you hear that opening dirge, like here we are, you're like literally to the kings, we're the princes of the universe. As soon as you hear that, it's like you hit like macho at Mach 7.
Well, I disagree. I do like Who Wants to Live Forever. There's not really. I think Don't Lose Your Head is the only song I would say is weak on that album. Otherwise, they're all great songs, but the one where you get Freddie Mercury being Freddie Mercury is Who Wants to Live Forever. So yeah, I would back that one.
Okay.
Let's see what we have. I would sacrifice watching ramen noodle videos on YouTube for Mike speaking too fast. Yeah, it's been brought up. Let's see. Best overall 80s feel movie, Flash Gordon. Gordon's alive? Oh, Flash. We've only got 12 hours to save. I love that one.
Flash.
Save the Earth. We have 14 hours to get Hans and save the Earth. It's just a fucking cheesy, great movie. Did anyone remember?
I
do sometimes when I turn when I'm messing around, like the kids are in the back seat of the car and such, and I want to make Gail roll her eyes or something like that. I used to turn sharp and go dive. You know that. I thought the way he said that was freaking awesome. Okay, just me, huh?
Did anyone remember the early 2000s remake TV series of Flash Gordon?
Oh my god, the sci-fi one.
Yes.
That was horrible.
Innuendo was awesome, man. You want to talk about some good Freddie? That song Innuendo is awesome. That's the one with the Show Must Go On,
Show Must Go
which
On.
was amazing. Yeah, it really is. As a matter of fact,
that's when he knew he was dying.
The last one was you get the last album. I think it was called it's not The Miracle. It's the one with It's a Beautiful Day, the sun is shining. What is that? I gotta look it up, but that is just I
thought Innuendo was their last album.
Nope. They did I want to say that there's a song called I Want to Live on the very last album as well, which is that'll just rip you apart now. None Your Business is bringing up The Outsiders and Stand By Me, which Stand By Me, I don't know, that may still be my favorite movie based on a Stephen King book. I know
the best Stephen King adaptation.
Not Shawshank though. Really?
Shawshank is good, but the thing is, and I said favorite, he said best, because I could probably watch Stand By Me anytime it's on. Like if you put it on, no matter what the mood, I can watch it. Can't say the same thing about Shawshank, but I do think Shawshank could be the superior movie. But my favorite would be Stand By Me.
Englanting, it's that Queen album was Made in Heaven, and it has It's a
Made
Beautiful
in
Day,
Heaven,
Made in Heaven, Let Me Live, Mother Love.
Yeah,
so hard.
Actually, he's talking about The Outsiders.
Which of Stephen King's movies and books need a remake though? needful things.
Movie ratings don't really make a lot of sense, Mata Nui, and they really stopped making a lot of sense since Temple of Doom, and they brought in PG-13. I remember, and MK can attest to this, that we used to get boobs and full frontal nudity sometimes in our PG movies. It was just a weird thing, and all of a sudden they bring in PG-13, and if you say shit twice, it's all of a sudden it's PG-13, and for some reason PG is now way too kiddish.
I remember seeing my first NC-17 film was Hardwire, and that was almost an X-rated film.
Hardwire sucked. Oh, that was a bad film. That movie was horrible.
At least it wasn't Showgirls.
Hey, you know what? Actually, Rob brought that up when we were talking about 80s movies. The best, he brought that one up as one of the worst. Yeah,
I actually can't remember the first R-rated or even NC-17 movie that I've ever seen. I can't remember that.
My first R-rated movie that I went and saw, and I actually got carded for, was Ruthless People. And I was like,
this could be the dumbest man alive. Yeah.
And I'm like,
my first R-rated movie was Silence of the Lambs, and my first NC-17 movie was Showgirls.
My first R-rated film, my parents took us to see Saturday Night Fever at a drive-in, and it was kind of funny because I don't think they understood what they were getting us into, because hey, music and dancing, guys, let's go. My mom's a huge musical fan, and I do believe Grease came out beforehand. But for some reason, she thought this was going to be okay for us. So she takes us to see it, and we're at a drive-in theater. And for the young people who don't understand, if you had a multi-screen drive-in, usually one screen would be on one side, and then over the other one would be at the other side. So they start talking, and they're like, oh, my pussy finger, and all that kind of stuff that's in Saturday Night Fever. And they said, okay, kids, you're going to sleep. You get in the window, because in the 1970s, the cars were big enough that a small child could literally lay in the back window, and that was my spot. And my brother had to lay down and turn his face away from the screen, and we got the blankets on. Now, that didn't stop us from hearing motherfucker, fuck, you know, which was, Saturday Night Fever is a rated R movie. But I've got my head turned away from Saturday Night Fever, but on the other side was a girls in prison film. So I'm getting tits in the from the movie screen on one side, and behind me I'm hearing fuck this, fuck boobs. So if you want to understand what made me
what broke Englantine's mind.
It's funny because my first drive-in experience was a triple feature, and yes, we actually, even in the 90s, we had drive-ins. And it was like literally, it seemed like they were ratcheting it up. The first film was George of the Jungle. The second film was Men in Black, and then finally it got to Spawn. And that was, yes, that's my first R-rated film, Spawn. It was at a drive-in theater. And oh my God, my parents were literally adamant about it. I was like, they were like trying to stuff our heads into the like seats of the car because of just how violent it got and like the cursing and all that shit. But it's like, I was the only one still awake.
We're old enough like me to remember when you were like watching like cable and it would like have the flip between the adult channels there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'd be like trying to look.
Oh yeah, yeah, like the scrambled cable where it was like, oh, it's clear for a second. I see.
I had that too, actually. Like that stopped. I think that stopped kind of happening. I think in 2003. I think 2003, because I remember up until 2000 and like until I moved out of the city for a while and into like the suburbs, and that was when we switched cable providers, and that's when they stopped doing it, because I remember up until that point you could just go to like channel 75 and it'd be blurry as crap, because that's actually how I used to watch wrestling pay-per-views, because you just go to channel 75 and you could hear it like a radio, but then sometimes it's clear for like 2 seconds.
Well, now, of course, you know, we're talking about a time you don't have the internet. Now it's like, you want to see a boob? Just type in boob. You know? But at this point, I remember, like, if you had HBO, they gave you a guide, and the guide said, hey, kids going through puberty, these are the movies you want to get because it's got an N on it. you know, and that would stand for nudity. So basically we go, okay, the parents are going to be asleep at 2 o'clock. We can go check this one out.
Skinemax at night.
This is going to be awesome. It's called The Wicked Lady. It's got, oh yeah, we'll check that out. It's got nudity in it. And then you end up watching some sort of period drama for an hour and a half because you just want to see a tit. And I don't know. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining us. And if you have been hanging out and listening to us since the beginning, why?
Yeah,
I know, right?
Yeah, this is like I don't know what the runtime on this, but because I forgot when we started, but dang, we must have been here for like 4 or 5 hours.
It's been a lot of fun. We started at like noonish, so
we might have, we may have, but we haven't done a marathon
now,
like this in
so
forever. I got a troll on my channel, and recently he's like, who the fuck do you think wants to listen to you for 3 hours? Shorten these. I said, and he goes, who the hell do you think wants to listen to you for 3 hours? And I went, me. And he goes, okay then. He said, that makes sense. Anyway, thanks a lot for joining us, guys. Thank you very much. Jacqueline, one more because it's her. Oh wait, Fred saying I really miss Skinemax when that magic hour came around. Yeah, now you can actually just look up those shows. Jacqueline says I was caught buttering my biscuit once while watching something late night and everything went silent and awkward in my family house. Well, it's probably because of the smell of the biscuits. And once again, guys, thank you very much for the comments, guys. Thank you for joining and talking about everything. And thank you very much for the super chats. Oh, 5 hours. Wow. And thank you very, very much for watching, guys. Have a good night.
Cheers, guys.
See ya. All right, bye.